You ever see a question so impossible, so absolutely ridiculous, that even the person who wrote it decides, no, that's too much? Yeah, that's where this story begins. Right in the middle of a chilly Thursday evening at Harvard, Professor Gerald Whitmore is alone in his office, staring out at the foggy windows, untouched coffee turning cold by his elbow, flipping through the latest draft of the university's math entrance exam. Then he sees it. The last problem on the test. An ancient riddle, pulled from dusty archives, the kind of thing professors whisper about but never dare put on a real test. The Collat's conjecture. It looks so simple, it almost feels like a joke, but everyone in math knows it's a wild animal nobody's ever tamed it. Not really. Whitmore included it as a challenge, a little dare, but now with the pressure on, he's second-guessing everything. No one's going to touch this, he mutters, and, just like that, crumples up the page and tosses it in the recycling. Generation after generation of mathematicians, baffled and obsessed, and here's Whitmore, tossing the mystery away with the rest of the day's trash. Meanwhile, a few floors below, you've got Ellie Moore, 14 years old, shoes scuffed, hands stained with ink, slipping through Harvard's hallways she's definitely not supposed to be in. She doesn't have an ID, no legacy last name, nothing that opens doors except a quiet determination. Since losing her parents when she was 7, she's been living with her grandma Ruth, a retired librarian who now cleans Harvard classrooms to pay the bills, and Ellie comes along to help not because anyone's making her, but because, bills don't pay themselves, and wandering those marble corridors make her feel like she belongs to something bigger, even if she's technically invisible. That night, Ellie's job is to collect clean paper and cardboard from recycling bins, anything they can sell for spare change. And right there, sitting on top of the math department's recycling, is that crumpled page fresh, expensive paper, barely touched. She smooths it out, reads the instructions, start with any number. If it's even, divide by 2. If it's odd, multiply by 3 and add 1. Keep going in at first. It looks like a silly logic puzzle, but it itches at her brain because she's seen something like this before in an old math book with missing pages and coffee stains, the kind she used to read for comfort. She remembers trying these Collat's rules, watching numbers bounce around, up and down, until they all, somehow, landed in the same quiet loop. Always, they ended up back home. She kneels right there by the bin, takes out a scrap of cardboard, lays the paper on top like a treasure map, and instead of scribbling numbers, she draws arrows, loops, curves tracking the motion, not the math. It's like watching a leaf fall, never straight, always dancing. Some numbers drop fast, others spiral wild, but always, eventually they come to rest. They all come home, she whispers. Time slips by, the lights switch to night mode, the hallway's empty, and Ellie's still there, sketching, lost in the rhythm of it. There's a secret shape to the chaos, something nobody else seems to see, and she sketches a symbol, circles a spot where the paths always cross. Why do they all pass through there? She doesn't know, but she can feel it like a heartbeat older than any classroom or grade. Ruth's voice down the hall snaps her back. Ellie, you ready? And Ellie carefully folds the page, tucks it in her bag, gives the recycling bin a last look, and heads home. Back in their cramped apartment over the laundromat, Ruth makes tea and hums. The lights flicker, the floors creak, and Ellie, cross-legged on the floor, looks at the page again, not to solve it. Not yet, but to ask, why do they all end the same way? She doesn't know, but she knows the question matters because it was thrown away by an expert, forgotten by the system, and now found by nobody. But for Ellie, the question isn't dead, it's alive, and it's talking back. The next morning, the city's already noisy, but in her little corner, Ellie's still inside that puzzle, copying the equation again and again, just to see what changes. She notices how one number dives and leaps, another zigzags, nothing goes straight, but nothing's random either. It's like a song she can't hum, but can almost remember. Ruth calls from the kitchen. Are you drawing again? Ellie just grins, just thinking. Thinking is what smart people do before breakfast. Ruth laughs. Ellie stuffs her papers into her bag, slips out, and heads back to Harvard. She sneaks into an old seminar room with a chalkboard the length of a wall, perfect for what she needs. She writes the rules in the corner, then starts mapping out paths, not as numbers, but as lines on a map. Some shoot straight down, others twist and double back, some collapse in a flash, some spin upward forever before falling. She boxes intersections, marks where paths cross, writes one word. Why? Stepping back, the board looks like a map of a forest, trails ending in the same clearing. How do they all end here, even though they started so far apart? She whispers. The room gives her silence for an answer, but she keeps drawing dots for drops, curves for climbs, diamonds for loops. The whole board fills with this secret visual language, a language she's inventing in real time. There's a knock at the doorman and Nancy, and she panics, erasing half the board, stuffing her papers into her bag, chalk rolling across the floor as she bolts for the stairs, vanishing into the day. But she's left a faint ghost behind, the word why, right at the heart of her forest map. That night, Ruth gives Ellie a bowl of soup and a folded newspaper. They printed your riddle, she says. Ellie blinks. She'd sent it in as a jokier riddle in the local paper's puzzle section. It climbs, it falls, it always ends the same. Ellie smiles. It's not the answer, but it's the beginning of a voice. Maybe someone else will start asking why. Monday comes. Harvard bustles as usual. Students scribble math on napkins. Professors argue. Nobody looks down. Everyone's moving. But somewhere something shifted. Walter, the night custodian, sees at first a faint diagram on the board, erased but not gone. A number 27 underlined 3 times. He doesn't know what it means, but he remembers. That same afternoon, Professor Whitmore, who tossed the puzzle, can't get it out of his mind. He's haunted by the thought, what if someone saw it? Solve it. Brilliance hides in quiet corners, he knows. He glances outside at the cherry blossoms, mind racing. Downstairs, Ellie sits behind the library, drawing on brown paper, tracing a new sequence, charting how different paths drop into each other like jumping double Dutch ropes. To her, it's not chaos, it's origami, folding, unfolding, always coming together just right. Later, Whitmore gets a call. Janitor found weird chalk diagrams in a locked seminar room, beyond undergrad level. You teach Colitz? Not recently. Looked like someone was onto something big. Whitmore's spine tingles. He digs out an old notebook, sees the number 27, the wild seed, remembers how it taunted him, exploded upward before falling, a pattern wild and beautiful. And now, someone else is seeing it too. Ellie doesn't know she's being watched. She just knows she feels different when she draws now less curiosity, more responsibility. That night, Ruth shows her another crossword clue. Number that falls, then rises, then falls again. Ellie smiles. Her question is alive out there, rippling through the world. Days pass. Whitmore emails security. Report any non-staff using seminar rooms, especially writing numeric sequences. He doesn't say why, but he knows the problem he threw away isn't Gonite's breathing again. One evening, Whitmore hears the faintest chalk sound through a half-open seminar door, slips inside, but finds only a marker cap and a scrap of cardboard arrows, trails, branching like a forest. Why do they always cross here? Someone's written. For the first time in years, Whitmore feels like a student again, curious, unsettled. Meanwhile, Ellie keeps finding new questions. Instead of focusing on where numbers end, she asks, where do they pause? Where do they rest? She sees that even wildly different paths slow down at the same spots, like traffic lights in different cities, all timing to the same secret rhythm. She wonders, what if this isn't just a pattern, but a memory? Back at Harvard, Whitmore's haunted combs through access logs, finds no trace of students. Who isn't on the list? He wonders aloud. Ellie keeps coming back, not to the old rooms, but to a stone bench behind the library, writing letters to whoever threw this question away. She says, I think it's not a problem. I think it's a mirror. I'm not trying to solve it. I'm trying to understand why it dances. Ruth finds one of these letters, lights a candle beside it. A week later, Whitmore finds the board covered again, not with numbers, but with loops, gates, symbols. It isn't a formula, it's a path. He erases it gently, then writes, Who are you? And leaves the door cracked open. It's Tuesday. Harvard is quiet, the halls almost listening. Ellie finds a cracked door, sees the message. Who are you? Her throat tightens, she whispers, I'm no one. But the room doesn't believe her. That day, the night custodian spots her, the girl from the recycling bins. She's back, drawing Coleridge trees. Whitmore hurries to the seminar room. Inside, Ellie stands in front of the board, green hoodie, chalk-dusted hands, notebook bursting with diagrams, strange symbols. Whitmore steps in. You're the one working on the conjecture. Ellie nods. I thought I was just drawing, but the more I drew, the more I saw. Whitmore looks at her, really sees her. How old are you? 14. Where'd you learn this? I just listened. He sits. Show me. That night, Ellie returns home, eyes wide, whispers to Ruth, he saw. The professor who threw away the pajihi asked me to come back tomorrow. Ruth squeezes her hand. Back at Harvard, Whitmore flips through Ellie's notebook diagrams labeled, not a formula, a path, notes about secret rest spots, places numbers slow down. For the first time in his career, he doesn't feel like the expert. He feels like the student. Now, Harvard wants to know her name. Whitmore walks Ellie into the faculty lounge, a room full of professors, old books, cold stares. This is Ellie Moore. She's the one working on the convergence mappings. Some laugh, some look skeptical. Ellie stands tall, draws 3 lines on the board, curves meeting at a hinge point. These are 3 different sequences, all passing through the same place. I call it a hingeets where numbers breathe. One professor mutters, a statistical attractor? Ellie shrugs, I call it a hinge. Another professor, old and quiet, whispers, that's not wrong. Afterward, Ellie asks Whitmore, did I say something wrong? He smiles, you said something true. That's rare in rooms like that. Later, she draws in the greenhouse faces, not just math, marking which professors see her, which don't, mapping people the way she maps numbers. A few days later, the university wants to put her on a stage showcase her for donors. Maybe film it. Ellie isn't sure. Do you want to be there? Ruth asks. I don't know. They'll want to use your voice before you learn how to protect it. That's how it always begins. The seminar room is reassigned, her space gone. Ellie writes in her notebook, they see me now, but do they see what I see? Meanwhile, some professors are scheming publish her work under joint names, present her findings before she can. Whitmore stands outside the room, powerless, watching her story get twisted. Ellie disappears for a while, not in retreat, but in construction. In an old garage near Harvard Yard, she builds her own board white butcher paper on foam panels. No numbers, just motion and color. Red for rise, blue for fall, gold for loops. She draws something Nawa pivot, where paths don't meet but turn together. Ruth visits, brings toast and milk, and Ellie says, not yet. It doesn't want a name yet. Ruth smiles, that it's still growing. Whitmore finds a no-tellies diagram with the words, I'm not disappearing. I'm building somewhere no one can take apart while I'm still learning how it holds together. He whispers, good girl. Across town, researchers try to copy her work, not realizing she's written in the margins. You can copy the tree, but you can't grow its roots. Ellie's wall in the garage grows. She names one piece the room that redirects. Tomorrow, she'll invite just one person, Whitmore, the only one who asked, who are you? He arrives on a rainy morning, follows the address Ruth slipped him on a coffee receipt. The garage is white with sketches, a museum nobody else knows. Ellie shows him a new finding. They share a rhythm, even when they don't share a destination. That's a new definition. Whitmore says, a little in awe. A terrifying one. Ellie grins. I just kept listening. But you're the one drawing. I draw what I hear. They sit, share tea, and Whitmore warns her. There's going to be more pressure. Ellie asks, what if I say no? Then say no, but not out of fear. Say no because you know it's worth saying yes to. Ellie shows him a new spiral open, not closed, labeled the room that listened back. Whitmore reads it. That's you, isn't it? She doesn't answer. She doesn't have to. The next day, Whitmore leaves a note for the faculty. If the girl returns, don't ask for credentials. Ask what the numbers sound like when no one is speaking. If you can't understand her answer, you're not ready for her question. Ellie stands alone in the garage. The room isn't just hers, Anna Marie, it's a place of trust. It speaks back. She adds a new layer to her spiral, whispering, "It's not a theory yet. It's a language learning to say thank you." Then comes the quiet invitation, handwritten, 6 words, "You may speak if you wish." A meeting, not recorded, not for publication, just a circle of faculty, one empty chair. Ellie stands at the wall, notebook pressed to her chest. When she enters, she doesn't sit. She flips to the last page, holds it UPA, single spiral, open-ended, one word, still. If you only measure what moves, you'll miss the thing that holds it all still. She places the notebook on the chair. You don't need me to prove anything. The questions I'm asking don't want to be solved yet. They want to be understood. With that, she leaves no fanfare, no applause. No one moves. Eventually, the quiet professor sits, whispers, "I've been teaching for 30 years, and I've never felt more like a student." That night, Ruth gives Ellie a slip of paper. "You've built a language worth waiting for." The next morning, the old chalkboard in room 203 carries a new message. "This seat has no name, but whoever sits here will not be interrupted." Back in the garage, Ellie hangs a blank page with one line. What happens after silence is heard? She turns off the light not because her work is finished, but because it doesn't need to prove it's real. And that's the story. So, let's settle it right here. Is it better to chase answers, or to protect the questions that keep us listening? You tell me. Comment below, what would you have done in Ellie's place? Where does real genius belong? Who decides when a voice is ready to be heard?